You know, I miss the 1990s sometimes. It was a more innocent age, characterised by some really beautiful acoustic guitar sounds that I grew up with, and maybe you did too. Or maybe your mum and dad did. This was not the super slick Nashville country sound, nor was it the hair ballad, slimline overhaul sound of the early 90s, although that was awesome. No, this was something new that to my teenaged ears sounded organic and beautiful, truthful perhaps. I'm talking about a specific kind of North American indie pop song, you know the sort of thing I mean, and it sounded a little like this. Now, I did specifically say North American because the British indie acoustic sound of the 90s was a very different animal, and one that I will definitely be looking at in the future. So to get a 90s sound, we need a quintessentially 90s guitar. There is an argument to say that this could be a Takamine Santa Fe, or maybe a Washburn Festival series with tone slots. But those were predominantly stage instruments, essentially rudimentary piezo systems with guitars wrapped around them. No, for what I'm looking for, there really is only one obvious choice. A Taylor 810. This was the first Taylor guitar's design all the way back in 1975, and by 1995 it had become a modern classic that would guarantee a bright and detailed sound in the studio while still giving you some of that Dreadnought punch. Let's face it, the Dreadnought was still the most popular acoustic guitar in the world at this point. The Fender Highway Series Acoustasonic was still many years away. That is a joke, they're not great. So the main ingredient for this sonic texture is going to be a single large capsule mic at the body joint of the guitar. I'm using a Gefell M930, but a Neumann U87, Telefunken 291, AKG 414, even a Rode NT2 should do the trick. I remember a conversation I had with a wise old sound engineer who had been responsible for capturing some epic performances in the 80s and 90s, and when I asked him about his choice of mics, he said to me, "We used to stick an 87 in front of it. It didn't really matter what it was, an 87 usually did the trick." This is actionable intelligence. So later in the 90s we did start to see some small capsules as well, especially if the end result was going to be part of a full band sound. In the first instance, I'm hoping to capture a sound that has a real shimmer to it, but without too much beef up the centre, if you know what I mean. This Gefell is a cardioid mic, and because of that we're going to watch out for proximity effect. I'm going to set this to be just outside the distance where proximity effect would start to kick in on this mic, and that way if I want to put more chunky lead lines and so on, I can bring the mic in closer and they'll really pop. Now, one thing that people were doing a lot in the 90s was blending sources. So while we're keeping things mono for the guitar signal, I'm also going to take a source from the pickup. This was a very popular approach, and while it's not one I use that often, it does give a more live music vibe to the sound, kind of like an MTV Unplugged sound, with that mix of mic and pickup together. This guitar has a much more modern Baggs pickup than the undersaddle piezo, and it is piezo, you'd have found in an original Taylor. You can tell because it sounds half decent and it only needs 2 controls, and that is always a good sign. We're going in mono because we may want to add some more textures as we go along, and it's good to keep some space handy too. I'm also going to pull out a capo too for shits and giggles. There was a lot of this sort of thing going on in the 90s, and I've put it here on the 4th fret. So first of all, I'm going to record this idea with the mic and the pickup together. I'm going to add a short reverb to the pickup sound, but not to the mic. And this is what it sounds like when you put the reverb on the mic and leave the pickup dry. A bit too much for me. I've decided to give myself a strummy chorus, that's always fun, still with the capo at the 4th. I'm also going to get my very cheap thrills with a doubled guitar part with some very 90s chord shapes and a capo on fret 2. Check this out. Here's a nice trick for you. If you're in something approaching standard tuning, then your 7th fret harmonics give you a D chord. And your 12th and 5th fret harmonics give you a lovely G that you can use. So I'm going to fling some harmonics at this too. There's also a lead sound. I'm going to be using proximity effect and some pickup blended in for that. I'm going to move the mic a little bit closer. Here we go. Nice, something like that. And I'm going to stomp the snot out of this with a compressor to ease it through the mix as well. I'm also going to play a 4-note solo, and I'm going to try and get as much character and colour into that as I can in that short space of time. And that's it. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Here is the whole monkey, a bit of drums and a smidge of bass to go with it as well. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay tuned.